Hello, this is the LEGO Ninjago Salvage M.E.C set, and I think for the most part, it's actually as cool as it looks. This is Ronin's mech, and it's supposed to be made of a lot of salvaged parts, kind of thrown together, although the design of it, if you don't look at the colors, is actually pretty clean. But the color scheme is his, with a lot of dark red and some olive in there as well. Always nice to get some olive parts, and some orange for some brightness. Over on this arm here is a stud shooter, or a double stud shooter. You can see at the end, kind of for the fingers there. And onto one of the studs they attach a couple of small dishes with a net on it. So it's supposed to allow you to fire off a net to try to capture an enemy. There's no way to fold it up or make it look not obvious, but it's a thing. The other arm is more interesting though. It has this bolt shooter on it, which just has, you know, the large bow style setup with a couple of blades there from the larger action figures. It does have some fingers, and the fingers can be articulated, and they do allow you to kind of bring that down around the center of the weapon part, so it kind of makes it look like it's actually grabbed, because it is actually grabbed. This gets inserted into actually a Technic hole, a pinhole, not an axle hole, so it's not actually held in there permanently, but it is, you know, nicely centered up. There's also a thumb on the underside, under there. But the main action here, of course, is with the spring-loaded shooter, which uses the black colored bolt. Now, to me, articulation and posability is really important with mechs, and it's a bit of a mixed bag with this set. So this one has just a single axis of motion around the elbow, which totally makes sense, and it actually works pretty well. You get a good range there, although it doesn't extend out all the way, but I'm happy with that, and it's smooth, and it has the right amount of friction. Could have a little bit more, but it works. Ball joint up at the shoulder allows you to bring this way up, way down, rotate around in different ways, so you can, you know, interact between the two joints there. That works out well for me. However, like this inverted slope piece definitely limits the range, how far you can come down with it, and kind of limits the forward and back as well as it hits this spinner top piece. However, if you were to rotate this upside down, you get a lot more range. Let me take this bolt out of here, but you get a lot more range. So I think if you just built this a little bit differently, it might not look quite as good, but you could get more posability out of it. But that's just the arms. The legs now are really good. You've got full ball joints down for the ankles, which allows you to get good stability no matter what your pose is. There's no ability to kind of bend at the knee. It just has that pre-selected bend in it. However, up at the hips, you're able to bring it forward and back, splay the legs out, and that just gives you a lot of range of what you can actually do. It's very easy to get this into a very dynamic looking pose. And it's easy to get it to where the feet, or in this case the foot, is beneath the center of gravity, or close enough to allow it to balance on its own. So there are no strings attached here. I've got no clear pieces beneath this. It's able to balance just like that pretty easily. And I'll tell you one thing that really helps with posing with this model. It's waist articulation. It's just able to rotate around pretty freely there. There is some friction behind it with just a pin, an axle pin piece that has some of those friction ridges on it, but this just works well and really goes well with the kind of round shape of the whole thing. It just looks like it's rotating within its own diameter nicely and smoothly. There's some small things kind of hidden around. So there's a weapon over on this side. There's a skateboard over on this side done in orange, and that has a sticker on it, new exclusive sticker. This actually looks pretty cool. Happy to add this one to my collection. This shoulder-mounted launcher is able to be turned in pretty much any direction with the help of a ball joint there, plus an additional hinge joint, plus this doubles as storage. And in there right now they've got a crystal of, or I guess it's like a golden crystal type of thing. And some food. Gotta have a snack for the road. This arm over here also has a couple of these hat pieces, one on either side, and they're there mostly for texture and decoration, but you can take one off and actually put it onto Ronin. Ronin is behind this exclusive printed canopy piece, which folds down and he just stands there. But on his side, he does get console pieces, one on either side, just a sticker on a small little winglet there, but that's supposed to represent, his controls for the thing. So when this all gets closed up, he is able to see those to either side of him. It would be nice if they were a little bit farther forward, just for realism, but I think this is perfectly fine. It gets the idea across. Now on the back of the body, there's some pretty nice detailing, better than you would normally see on the back of a Lego mech. However, that's because this is a detachable section. Once again, they've done the thing of including a flyer that can be removed from the main build. And this looks okay. It's got really small wings in the front, but I do like the detailing on the front of that. You see it has just a printed slope piece there, and you just sit a figure in it. It's got the booster on the back or engine. It also has this hole on the front, axle hole, and that's intended to work with the bow. So here, this is actually going to attach in, unlike it did on the hand. This attaches fairly securely. Now, that's a little bit more cool looking for sure, especially with the metallic look there. That can be interesting. You can also spread these out a bit more. Maybe that goes a little bit better with the angles of the thing. You can also bring it out just straight. Maybe that's not so cool. You can also bring them forward if you want to and do a thing like that. I kind of like that look as well. You can see that as being some sort of weapon that would project energy forward. The Skull King Warriors get a mech of their own, but it's much, much, much smaller. In spite of it being much, much smaller, it still looks pretty cool to me, and it looks appropriate. It looks like it is itself a skeletal warrior in the form of a mech. It's like they took their own view of themselves and made it more buff and more large and made a mech out of it. This also has really good articulation for such a small build, with ball joints for the legs and ankles, if you will, allowing you to move this forward quite easily, move this back. Looks a little bit awkward in kind of a walking pose like that, but it is poseable. And you also have poseability of the upper arms with a ball joint there, and the lower arms with an elbow joint there, and you can rotate the hands side to side like that. The only bad thing here is that sometimes when you mess with this, the red piece and the gray piece will separate. In my case, I was having more problems on this side. It may vary, but yeah, there we go. It may vary by individual part, just the finest manufacturing tolerances. If they're off just a little bit, it'll change the amount of friction or clutch power you get, but you see that that one is coming off relatively easily, so that's a little bit of a downer there. The whole thing does hold the actual skeletal warrior inside of it. This folds down. You can also just fold this part of it down, and that's actually a pretty cool look, and it's got the kind of rib cage elements that look like they're holding him in once you have this all up like that. Plain on the back, but it has all these studs which to me just say put things here. So if you have some extra parts, I do definitely recommend kind of beefing that up a little bit and just breaking up the monotony of it. The figures here are Ronin with a new outfit, Nia as Water Ninja, this is Frackjaw, and this is Krazi, or is it Krazi? It's K-R-A-Z-I. I don't know the official pronunciation of it. New prints here and here and here, not here, if I'm not mistaken. New elemental weapon which needs to be collected there, the double-bladed axe, pretty large. Doesn't work quite so well with the skeletons with their limited articulation and inability to rotate at the wrists. Not a lot to see from the backs like this. But some interesting stuff gets revealed here. That's a phenomenal print, which mostly gets covered up most of the time. We've got wraparound printing for Ronin, just partially. It doesn't go all the way around, but some back of the head printing for Frackjaw. No alternate face still for Nia on this one. All told, like I said from the start, I feel like this is a really cool set. The mech itself needed to be good, and I think it's actually a little bit better than I expected it to be. Could use a little bit of adjustment to improve the upper body articulation, but I really appreciate the legs, how they're done, how posable the whole thing is, the waist articulation, and the weapons and such. Just lots of good stuff going on here, and a decent selection of figures. I even like the small Skull Warriors mech itself, even though it's small and maybe a little bit awkward with the legs, but cool. Now it's your turn to share what you think about the set by leaving a comment down below. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you in advance for your feedback. I will talk to you again very soon.